Welcome back, y'all, and in this video, we're going to be going in-depth on more new screenshots from American Marksman as we watch some Off-Road Outlaws gameplay in the background. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into these brand new American Marksman screenshots. Now, this one gives us a much better look at the user interface than we've ever had before, and this one is probably one of the biggest landscape shots I think they've ever actually shown us. Now, obviously, we have a lot of the features that we talked about previously with the map and all of the different icons around the map itself, but what I really want you guys to take in from this particular screenshot is the sheer depth of the environment that they're dropping you into. This is obviously one of the huntable environments, and it's freaking massive, and the graphics look insane for a mobile platform game. Now, in the post where these screenshots were released, the developers actually said, in American Marksman, you can hunt on land you own, land others own, or with friends. You can own multiple lands in different areas of the country and hunt different types of animals. All lands are customizable, and you can place hunting and camping accessories on them. So let's say, for example, the environment that this one was on right now. Let's say you wanted to set up a tent in an area that you deemed was a good spot for it. You could literally be like, yep, I'm gonna pitch my tent right here. That sounds good to me, and boom, there's my tent. And that right there, that aspect of gameplay right there is, I think, what is gonna set this game so far apart from any of the other games in its category. Now, interestingly enough, as we go through these screenshots, what's going on in the background is obviously Off-Road Outlaws, where I am trying and failing to knock this bird out of the sky. Now, obviously, I have the wrong weapon for it. It's a lot shorter range, and we realize that a little bit later, but it works when there's a bird a little bit closer, so don't worry about it. And to talk about the first-person gameplay where you're walking around in Off-Road Outlaws, I have a feeling that the gameplay in American Marksman is going to be very similar, but a little bit more fleshed out and a little bit more in-depth and potentially a little bit smoother of a walking and aiming experience than the experience that we get in Off-Road Outlaws. Not that the Off-Road Outlaws walking and aiming experience is bad, it's actually far from it. It's actually really, really good, especially considering the fact that it's in a game that's primarily designed around off-road driving. I mean, that's not a feature that we ever thought we were going to get in this game, minus, like, you know, like any of the other features we got. Like, who would have ever thought that years ago, if someone was like, yeah, by the way, you can walk and shoot in Off-Road Outlaws, I would have been like, what? Excuse me? And I feel like a lot of other people would have been as well. But what I think we really can draw from the experience of walking that we have in Off-Road Outlaws, walking and aiming and things like that, is that's probably what was used as kind of like the basics for what it's gonna feel like in American Marksman. Now, I could be wrong. That's not something that I have, like, officially run past the developers or anything like that. I haven't asked them that directly, but if I'm guessing here, I would think that there may have even been some testing, like some early testing that was done with the walking and aiming system in Off-Road Outlaws, and then, like, maybe even migrated over to American Marksman or used as kind of like a development or test bed for the gameplay mechanics in American Marksman itself. Now, let's switch gears for a moment and take a look at some of these items that you can place throughout your world. Now, let's look on that column on the left right there where it says land info, hunt tasks, inventory, camp, infrastructure, hunting itself, buy resources, or return to farm. So it seems like at any point out in the world while you're walking around, exploring around, you can always return back to your farm as your base almost. Now, you can see here we can put up a deer stand, we can put up actually different deer stands, one big, one small. We can put a hay bale, a haystack, sandbags, different shapes of sandbags. We've got a camping tent, actually a couple different camping tents. You could set down a bonfire. You could actually set down an American flag if you want to as well. There are some fences, some benches. You can even do an army tent if that's a little bit more your style, a little bit more your speed. And there are elements of this that kind of just lead to sort of camp customization, like, for example, the skull right there, like that. I don't think that's going to provide you with any practical benefit, but it could, you know, spice up your campsite a little bit if that's something that you're interested in or something that you're into. Now, on the next screen, we'll see something a little bit more interesting, and that is the radio tower. Now, the radio tower seems like it will be $1,000 plus whatever that 50 unit is. Now, we don't have an actual technical name for that yet, so that's why I'm not calling it anything specific. Probably either like maybe silver, maybe iron, I'm not sure. But either way, once you place that down, that enables your radio. Now, whether or not that contributes to more like communications, or maybe like more of the map that you can explore at one time, or maybe a wider range of the map that you can see, or if it's just like something to do with talking to other players, we'll have to wait until we have more information on that specifically to actually find out. But it's really interesting that certain elements that you'll place around the map will actually directly affect your gameplay in ways like exploration and even communication, potentially. And as we have heard from the developers, there are going to be vehicles in this game, and to the extent that we can use them, we don't know yet, but we do know that the developers have said that we will have vehicles of some sort. Now, I'm not expecting it to be anything like Off-Road Outlaws. Like, I'm not expecting, like, you know, a massive collection of trucks. I mean, after all, it's a completely different game than Off-Road Outlaws. You know, American Marksman is at its core a hunting game, whereas Off-Road Outlaws is at its core a off-roading game / off-road racing game. So when you keep that in mind, it's honestly surprising to me that there's, well, it's not surprising to me that there's vehicles in American Marksman, but it is really cool that they are there, because I think, you know, there's a lot of developers that could have just been like, well, this is a hunting game and it doesn't need vehicles, so it's not going to have them. Whereas these developers were like, you know, hey, I know it's a hunting game, but throw some vehicles in there. It'll be a good time. Now, I, for one, am so incredibly glad that they're including vehicles in American Marksman, and I think it's going to add to the gameplay a lot, because, you know, how do you get to that hunting area? Well, you've got to take your truck, or you've got to take your, you know, your SUV, or whatever vehicle you use to get there, and then let's say the terrain gets a little bit too difficult for, like, your typical vehicle. Well, you got four-wheelers for that. You got side-by-sides for that. Like, that's literally what those vehicles were designed for, or at least that's one of the primary things that those vehicles were designed for. And as we draw closer and closer to the release of American Marksman, I'm actually getting really excited. I'm more excited for American Marksman than I thought I was going to be. And that's not to say I wasn't excited for it in the beginning. I've always been excited for it ever since they announced it. Especially what made me more excited for it, though, is being able to see how much Off-Road Outlaws has changed over time. If we look at what Off-Road Outlaws was years ago compared to what Off-Road Outlaws is now, it's not necessarily an entirely different game, but it's a way deeper game than it used to be in terms of features, in terms of online features, in terms of offline features, in terms of customization, in terms of vehicle selection, characters, birds, like all of these different things have been added to Off-Road Outlaws over time. And I really think that when these developers come out with a new game, they're not just coming out with the new game itself and that's that. They're coming out with a game that they are going to be supporting over a long time with, you know, updates and enhancements and all of these different things that the community either suggests or really wants in order to make the game a better, more enjoyable place to be. So I'm really excited about the game, particularly because I was able to see what they've done with Off-Road Outlaws over the years. And if you guys have anything that you are particularly excited for or that you are particularly concerned about in relation to American Marksman, I would love to know your thoughts and opinions down there in the comments. Like, is there something that you think is going to make it one of the best games these people have ever made? Or is there something that you find particularly concerning about it that you're like, oh, I really hope it's not, you know, XYZ. So again, let me know any and all of those thoughts and opinions in the comments below, because I would be very curious to hear them. And not only would be very curious to hear them, but I would also be very interested to be able to talk with you guys about it in the comments and get a little bit of a conversation going, because whenever we get a conversation going about things like that, there's always some really interesting points of view that pop up that I may not have thought of, or that really nobody in the comments may have thought of until it comes up in one of those conversational trains in the comments. And because I really do love having conversations with you guys in the comment section. It's one of my favorite parts about making these videos, and it's one of my favorite parts about getting to interact with you guys, both in the comment section and on stream, because at the end of the day, you know, there's always gonna be things that, you know, you might bring up that I might not have even thought about, or there might be things that you know, you come from a perspective on that I may not have come from a perspective on, but it may help me better understand what you're concerned about with the game or what you're excited about with the game. So again, that's just to highlight a little bit of why I love talking to you guys about all these different aspects of the game as we near closer and closer to release. And of course, once this game releases, we will be playing it like mad here on the channel, both in video form and in stream form. And of course, we'll be running open lobbies as well. But that's gonna do it for this one, y'all. Hope y'all enjoyed, and if you did, make sure to once again leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you guys next time.